Welcome to Where Are They Now? We reach into the archives of Lenape, Shawnee, Cherokee, and Seneca high schools and invite selected alumni to share memories and fill us in on their career paths after commencement. Since Lenape's first graduating class in 1961, Shawnee's in 1972, Cherokee's in 1978, and Seneca's in 2005, over 68,000 individuals have received diplomas from these four schools. Here now is your host, DJ Dini.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Where Are They Now? Today, we will be reconnecting with an alum who graduated from Cherokee High School in 2011, Sagatom Saha. Sagatom is a research associate for the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C., where he also currently resides. Welcome to the show, Sagatom.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for joining us today. Obviously, graduating in 2011, not that long ago, but enough time to kind of establish a career and have your life moving forward. But let's go back and start the show with high school. You graduated, you did a lot of different activities. Some of the things you did, debate club. Tell me a little bit about debate club.
I think debate club, that was maybe the most meaningful experience I had in high school. I think that's also largely how I kind of ended up doing what I was doing. But I did it, maybe not all 4 years, but maybe at least the last three. Loved getting in. That's kind of how I got into policy, actually, which is what I do now. A lot of what debate was is federal government should or shouldn't do that. And then by my senior year, I became captain, and it was just my real passion at Cherokee.
Now, you also participated in Knowledge Bowl, I think, all 4
Yeah.
years. That was, I guess, something similar as far as, working with a lot of the same people you worked with in debate, or no?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these clubs were kind of a rotating group of a lot of the friends I made at Cherokee. But Knowledge Bowl was really fun. We were never particularly good, to be honest. But it was just like Jeopardy with your friends, and it's a lot of fun.
Now, you also were involved with some languages, Latin club and Russian club.
Yeah, so Latin, I still have a lot of fun memories of that class with Mr. Underwood. I'm pretty sure he's still at Cherokee.
Yes.
Took Latin all 4 years, and then I kind of got halfway through Cherokee, realized I should take a spoken language because I ended up going to college for international relations. So Russian was available, which is a really unique experience at Cherokee. Took it for 2 years. Didn't actually think I was going to do anything with it. I thought I would switch to Arabic. When I got to college, but I took a placement test, got out of the first year of Russian, and just kind of ran with it. And it's actually been a big part of my life ever since.
So how many years of Russian did you take?
So 2 at Cherokee, all 4 years at college, and I actually studied in St. Petersburg while at school, and then also the country of Georgia.
Talk about some of the teachers that you remembered. Mr. Justin Smith.
Oh yeah, Mr. Smith, for sure. I still get lunch with him every time I'm home. He was probably my biggest mentor at Cherokee. I had him for sophomore and junior English. Just great teacher, and now he's an administrator. But really taught me to believe in myself, taught me to always push a little bit harder, and made me believe that I could probably do anything.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and he has a huge passion for education. Mr. Gallo, tell us about him.
I had him for U.S. history. Just a really, really nice guy. Pretty much all my foundation in U.S. history is from him because I didn't take any in college. I'd love to know how he's doing, actually.
Yeah, he's still at Cherokee. He is still at Cherokee. Mr. Underwood, you mentioned earlier about Latin. Let's talk about him a little bit, because I know a lot of people mention him. Latin is a language, it's the dead language. I mean, nobody speaks it in the world, but people still love having Latin over there at Cherokee.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great program. He's great at teaching. And if anyone who's had him, and I'm sure there's many, he's one of the most eccentric people. But I think that's what makes him really good at his job. I took it all 4 years. I think I went into it just because it was a good base to learn other languages, actually, in the long run. And it was just a fun class. It was also a bit of a history class, too, because we got all the Roman history. And that was his passion. And because he was passionate about it, we all cared really deeply about it.
All right, now an English teacher, Miss Winder.
Oh, yeah. I actually I have a list right here of all the professors that I thought had a huge impact on me. And Miss Winder's on this list. Actually, so are all the other ones. But, all my literature that I ever read in that class was from AP Lit with her. I actually just reread Wuthering Heights, which we read in her class. So I have fond memories there too.
Is Mrs. Stokes on your list? Because she's on mine too.
Yep, right there. That's actually second to last one. I double majored in business, but really international relations in school, and that's where, I mean, the straight direct line from high school to college was. I took her. Had her for world affairs, but I also had her for AP Euro and AP European history and world history, and that's where I really realized that like this is my passion. I love the history, and then the contemporary history is what got me into international relations and seeing how the world works and relationships between countries and diplomacy. She got me into that.
And Miss Barnum.
Oh, Miss Barnum, yeah. I used to come back my first couple years in school to try to sell Russian to people at Cherokee, get more people to take the program. I could probably make a better case now that I have a job. But yeah, she kept me going through the first 2 years. Great teacher. She got me out of a first college year, so I mean that's my ringing endorsement.
Well, that always helps, yeah. All right, now tell me about the talent show in high school.
Oh yeah, so that is probably my proudest moment. Ironic, not all this other academic stuff, but it was my senior year because I played twice, but it was me, my best friend Eddie, who went to AU with me actually, Alex Boynow, who was also our year, Oren Ottinger, and then I think it was just the four of us. We played a Queen medley. We did the arrangement all by ourselves, and we won best. We didn't win best overall, but we won best band. And I had just started playing bass at the time. I might have been a couple months in. I don't even think I had played on a stage by that point. And I mean, at the time, I think I was like 16. I felt like the biggest thing in the world.
So were you like self-taught, just something you decided to pick up?
Yeah, I think I ended up taking classes after, but all my friends in high school, like all those guys, they were all in the marching band. They were all musicians, like from middle school onward. And I just figured, no one plays bass, so I picked it up.
So I guess that's why they were able to write the arrangements, because they were all in the music program.
Yeah.
You mentioned...
Yeah, a lot of them still play music. They're all great.
Okay, great. Now, you mentioned the debate team earlier. Some of your fondest memories came from the competitions. Anything jump out at you as far as some of those memories?
I think we came in second at some point. It just the argumentative nature of it, which was a big thing for me, and then just debating policy, which is like kind of what I do now. But like I remember my junior year, they all start, U.S. federal government should, and then it was like debating, we should pull out our military presence from one of the following countries, and just all the research behind it, learning kind of, this is what we have deployed in Turkey, Iraq, et cetera, forming arguments, like drafting up opinions, and then every single time you're facing a different team and you don't know what they're going to say, and just the quick thinking and the analysis, just the general idea of it. And one of my best friends was my partner as well, and it was just fun to like share that with somebody.
I guess it always helps. A lot of times you have to debate a topic that you actually are on the other side of.
Yeah.
So I guess it helped having friends that were on your team that you a lot of times had that chemistry to begin with.
And the way debate works is you have an affirmative and a negative, and so we're debating the same topic, and as one team we have two different sides. So it's good to play off each other. They build their case essentially. When you go in, you present a case, and then it's up to the negative to tear it down, which is what I did. And then we can work with our own team to strengthen their case, see how we can argue things. It's a really fun experience. I never ended up doing it in college because it was a huge time commitment, but it was definitely a helpful experience at Cherokee.
When you're in high school doing the debate and doing some stuff with policy, argument, that type of thing with government, when did you kind of decide what you wanted to go to school for? Did you know when you were in high school what you wanted to do?
I think I always kind of knew. Well, not always. When I was a freshman and sophomore, I actually thought I was going to go into something more like engineering or math. But after I took those history classes, I knew I wanted to do something that was around contemporary history. I didn't know international relations was even a degree. And then I think once I started applying to colleges and looking at majors, I applied to a bunch of schools that were good IR schools, and I didn't realize that was even a thing. And then once I knew about it, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
So when did you decide that? That was junior year?
Yeah, I suppose junior year as I was applying. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's good timing then, because you actually knew, where you wanted to start looking. What were some of the schools that you actually looked to possibly
So
go to?
I applied really widely, but all of the DC schools, I kind of had a feeling I wanted to end up here. So American, George Washington, Georgetown were my three big ones.
Okay, so you ended up at American. How did you decide that that was going to be the place?
It was kind of on a whim. So I never really visited there. I did a summer program there. Thought the campus was beautiful. And I got in, and I actually thought about going to Drexel as well, which is where my sister went. And I got into a 6-year law program there. But I kind of got cold feet about committing to kind of 6 years of school. And then AU is a top 10 IR school, so I never really looked back after that.
So when you're there, you kind of know what you want to do, but what kind of things did you do while you were there to kind of get you to where you would be now?
A lot of internships, honestly. That was a big thing at AU and DC in general. I double majored in business, kind of as a fallback, so my class selection was a bit limited. But whenever I wanted to try something new and figure out what specific thing within international relations, I tried to take an internship in that. So, for example, I interned at State at the Afghan office doing econ work, and I found the economic side really interesting. And energy, which I do now, was folded under that. So it was really interesting to learn all the energy policy in another country, and I kind of pursued that after my sophomore year.
So then you kind of picked that up as something you weren't sure that you would be interested in, but then started to pursue that again, I guess, once you did that internship?
Another way, I came in and I mentioned that I thought about doing Arabic. So I came in my freshman year taking Russian, and think regionally I would study the Middle East. And after my freshman year, I'd taken all these classes, and I realized it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. So I looked into energy policy as something that bridged both gaps. Energy is really important in the Middle East and in Russia. So I figured, if I'm going to close the gap here, I should find out what this is about.
Okay, now you also got a U.S. State Department critical language scholarship in Russian.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
So I had gotten back from Russia at this point, or I actually applied when I was there, and I knew I wanted to stay there longer, but I couldn't find a way to do it without having to extend graduation. So I knew this program existed. It was essentially a 2-month scholarship to go study for a summer. I applied, and I got it, but instead of going back to Russia, we ended up in Georgia because of visa issues.
Okay, now we missed a big chunk here. You said got back from Russia. How did you get to Russia to begin with? I don't remember hearing that part of the story.
Oh, yeah. At AU, I think in the international service school, 90% of people study abroad.
Okay.
So it's really commonplace. So I studied there fall of my junior year, studied in St. Petersburg, 4 or 5 months.
Okay. So then you get back from Russia, and then you said you had problems getting with the visa.
Yeah, so it's a funny story, really. We got the scholarship, and we're waiting. It's a really extensive visa process for Russia. So we're waiting, and then 3 weeks before we leave, they tell us the program's now in the country of Georgia. Take it or leave it, and I made no alternative plans. I'd subletted my apartment. So I was like, well, this will be a life experience, and I went.
Okay, so kind of, I guess on a whim, just, hope this works out. And
Yeah, I was still studying Russian there, but not the most popular place to study Russian for some reasons.
Now, so you finish that up. What happens next?
So I start my senior year, and then my first semester I relaxed, and then my second semester I start looking for jobs. I start interning again, and then sometime around spring break I start doing some serious interviews, and I, applied pretty widely actually with my experience because I double majored in business, but I tried to stick to energy. So I looked at some oil companies, other think tanks, which is now what I'm doing. And I couldn't really find a good fit between energy and foreign policy and all the things I really cared about. So I was looking at some stuff that was just Russia studies, some stuff that was like defense budgeting, which I know nothing about. And eventually I found I'm now a research associate for energy and foreign policy, which is a perfect fit, and I ended up here at CFR.
Okay, so that's a lot of words for a big title.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What do you do?
Especially the way my parents don't even really understand what I do, so I tried to describe
Well, we're
it.
going to teach them, so when they watch this, now
Okay.
they'll know exactly.
Great. So a think tank is essentially a university without students. So all of the research components, it's what we do. So we have a lot of independent thinking to take on projects and say, hey, this is what research that needs to be done for policymakers to make informed decisions. So that can be anything from, do we know if a fly zone would be effective in Syria? What are the things we need to know? We do that research, and then we try to present it. On my end, it would be something like what is the most effective way to combat climate change? Would it be deploying things now or spending your dollars on research and development? That kind of stuff.
Okay, so what are some of the things you've done as far as accomplishments, big things that you've done since you've had the job?
I think what I'm most proud of, I've gotten my name on a couple op-eds in some big foreign policy publications that are probably just matter to me. And then actually right now I'm finishing up before I leave. I'm going on a trip to Prague, so I guess that's another thing. I'm co-authoring a chapter in edited volume, which is something I never thought I'd be doing at this point in my life.
What's going on in Prague?
So a bit of a conference that I'm helping out with.
Okay.
A good thing about doing international relations is that you get some free trips here and there.
Okay, but of course you'll do some work while you're there, right?
Yeah, it's work, and then I'm extending a couple of days to just see Prague.
Okay. Now, you mentioned what you've done long term. Take me through a typical day at this occupation.
This is it's funny that you ask that because whenever I interview interns, they ask something similar. My answer is there really isn't one, because there's always 3 or 4 competing priorities, and your hand's always in a bunch of different cookie jars. So it might be taking interview request to talk about, let's say, Rex Tilerson's nomination, editing. The paper you're editing gets back, so you want to put it out to peer review. Sometimes it's your own research. Sometimes someone asks, can you write this op-ed? Sometimes it's just processing receipts. But it's a bunch of different stuff. That's what I kind of really like about it.
So what's your favorite part of what you do?
It's the days when I can sit down with headphones in and just open 50 tabs and learn something and then put it into something new and take a bunch of different information and turn it into something useful for somebody else. That's like what the book chapter has been about. I've spent too many days learning about what like nuclear nonproliferation is, and that's something I have no background in, and then combining it with some of my own kind of core competencies and then putting something out there.
Okay, now looking back to some of your things you do outside of work, what are some of your hobbies and what do you do in your personal life?
So I try to play bass as much as possible, but I think I've gotten significantly worse since high school, unfortunately. And then a lot of it's just enjoying DC. It's a really great city for young people, and there's just so much free stuff. So I actually made a list. My New Year's resolution for 2016 was 52 things I hadn't done before in DC, like one a week. And I actually got halfway through the list, so finishing that. And then theater, oddly enough, which wasn't something I was into until college. But I saw about 20 plays last year, and DC has a pretty good scene for that as well.
So when you play bass, you just play by yourself? You don't have a group?
That's the difficulty. It's really hard to kind of play bass in your own room with headphones in. It's a lot more fun to play with people, and that's harder here.
Well, yeah, and the real world catches up with you. You're not doing it for every day. So,
Yep.
Looking back now, well, before we get to that, you have a dog, and I see the name. I can only Chief, right? I can only imagine where that came from, right?
Yeah. Well, he's technically my roommate's dog.
Oh, okay. So wait, who named the dog?
Huh?
Who named the dog?
Oh, so he's actually from a shelter. So
that's really weird.
That was the name. That was the name he came with. He's actually from Puerto Rico too, which is
okay.
That he has an English name.
The name of your mascot for your high school.
Oh yeah. It's a total coincidence, actually.
Yeah, that is kind of strange. All right. Well, going back to being a chief in high school, is there anything in particular that you would like to do over or do again? That you say, man, that was so much fun, I want to do it again, or I could maybe now that I know more, I would do something a little differently.
Huh. I mean, I've probably a bunch of different answers for that.
Well, good. We got some time.
I would really like to go back to debate. That's an experience. Just talking and working. I do still do policy and I still make arguments, but it's all on a page now instead of out loud. And there's, I mean, like a debate match is like sports for someone who's a nerd like me. So just the quick on your feet thinking, something I kind of miss. And then going back, I mean, taking languages was also really cool. I got to take two languages at once, which was something I never did in college because it was really difficult to do so with the way the credits worked out. And I'd really like to take languages again. I'd like to brush up on my Russian. I thought about starting Ukrainian, but like you said, like life catches up with you. But in high school, you have a lot of leeway to learn whatever you want.
Right. Now, you mentioned like the joy of debating. We talked about that a couple times, and now that you have this knowledge of policy to kind of back up, real world facts that back up the things you like to do, have you thought at all about doing anything in politics?
Increasingly, actually. So think tanks are a little removed from direct politics, but we definitely work on the margins. We advise a lot of policymakers, and that's really our audience as well as the general public to inform on issues. But when I think about my next steps after leaving CFR, because the expectation for my role is like roughly 2 years and I'm at 15 months, I'm thinking about increasingly having a more direct role in policy. I think it would be rewarding.
You're saying next step. What is it?
It would be something like joining a Senate staff and working and helping them make informed decisions in the Senate or in the House. Joining the executive branch, for example, where they directly craft things like executive orders and general guidance. That would be a more direct role than what I'm doing now.
So it is something on your radar, though.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in DC, it comes up for everybody. Everyone thinks about it.
Well, we wish you luck, and hope that things keep moving for you and that everything works out.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
We've been talking to Cherokee alum Sagatom Saha, a research associate for the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining us today, and please join us next time for more alumni interviews on Where Are They Now?